What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL Week 5 betting preview. It's officially October, best month of the sports gambling calendar. So we're going to build our Sunday six-pack after going 5-0-1, I believe, last week, with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stucky. Good stuff last week. You got hot. We're doing well. How you feeling?
Good. I'm glad for September to be over. It wasn't a great month for me overall. I could never get a late drive. One late drive. That's all I want. I thought I had it with the Falcons. Look, the Falcons pushed, didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
They had two non-offensive touchdowns, but they score a touchdown. The first late touchdown I've had all month, and it gets called back for holding. Probably would have guaranteed the cover. And then of course the Saints don't kick a field goal and then get the ball back and score a touchdown. And then the Falcons win it at the bell. But, I mean, the Jets, they go down the field and score a touchdown late to cover 4.5 against the Titans when I had them. Of course, the Titans covered the 1 week. I don't bet them, by the way. That was
right. Yeah, and I freaking bet against them like an idiot.
And the Jets couldn't get a field goal to beat the Broncos for my teaser, and for a teaser here. I mean, you got to be kidding me. The fewest amount of passing yards in a win by a team since 2007. I mean, Bo Nix had a negative, I think, 7 yards passing the first half. Aaron Rodgers, 2 chances to get down and score. Can't do it for me. Come on, Rodgers. I mean, that was bad. We'll talk about Denver in a moment. Their defense looks legit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a late score here and there. I will say, the Baltimore Ravens, they did come through for me. It was a nice sweat-free win. And it's funny how, and we talk about this every week. We'll talk about it again this week in a number of games. It's funny how the NFL market works, right? Last week, going into the Ravens-Bills game, Bills are the best team in the NFL. Josh Allen MVP, Bills Super Bowl. Ravens win one game in a great spot, classic Harbaugh spot. Ravens are the best team in the NFL. I mean, the changing of narratives on a week-to-week basis is just stunning. It'll never not make me chuckle in the NFL. And you have those overreactions that I'll carry over to this week. So we'll see if we can find some potential value. But yeah, it was nice to sweep the six-pack. You swept it 2 weeks in a row. I have to come up with something special here over the final couple of months of the season, because you got a massive lead. But as long as it's good for the pod, I'm happy.
Oh yeah, man. No, this is what we do it for. You know, we usually hit our stride somewhere in here. Sometimes it's week 2, but usually when these overreactions start, it's a good time. So glad you got on off the schneid, and we'll keep it going this week. We'll get into Thursday night football. We got the Bucks at the Falcons. The Falcons are favored by 1.5. The total is 44. It looks like now. Thoughts on this one? I mean, you had the Falcons in that last game against the Saints. They, like you said, they pushed. What did you think about them going forward?
Yeah, important to shop around. I think I've had 3 pushes on the six-pack this year. Always shop around, try to get the best number. I don't have a strong feel. I actually kind of lean Falcons. Let me see. I'm waiting on their injury report. They still haven't released it as of the time that we're recording this. It looks like, I know Winfield's still going to be out. Cansey's still going to be out for the Bucks. A couple of their depth receivers, their right tackle. Troy Anderson's out for the Falcons. That's pretty big at their linebacker position. I think he had 17 tackles last week. Just a stunning number. He was all over the field. I'm waiting to see on Bijan. He's banged up. Ray McLeod's banged up. And then I think Caleb McGarry's got a chance. Their right tackle. Drew Dahlman, their center, is still out. I was just overall disappointed. Look, I don't take much from the Bucks game. The Bucks looked great. The week before, they looked awful against the Broncos. They played an Eagles team that was a shell of itself. I mean, you're down best offensive lineman, 2 receivers. So credit to the Bucks for taking care of business. They did so in dominant fashion. But how much can I take from that game? You got to put like a little asterisk next to it. But from a matchup perspective, when I look at the Falcons last week, I mean, even on that last drive, not to go down and score a touchdown, not to get in the end zone once. I don't even think they ran play in the red zone because that one touchdown got called back for holding. The offense is just it's just a little off. I know they have offensive line injuries, but the Saints were down. Demario Davis and Willie Gay went down, and they're just like spamming outside zone runs. There's not a lot of variety. Kyle Pitts is non-existent. So I gave them a pass in week 1, but I haven't liked the development and progress of where the offense is going. And Cousins is still struggling under pressure, especially when teams blitz. He's coming off that injury. He's not very mobile. You're missing 2 offensive linemen. What are the Bucs going to do here? I mean, it's Todd Bowles. They're going to blitz, try to bring pressure. So that might cause Cousins some issues. The Falcons defense is solid. I think their safety play really saves them in a lot of areas. They're not going to give up a ton of explosive plays. This game's probably going to be close. So I think the line's about right. After last week, I think you do have to downgrade the Falcons just a bit. So I don't have anything here. I might look to bet it live, see what I'm seeing, wait on some more injury news, but not a strong take here. How about you?
Defenses are both a little underrated in this game. They were kind of popping up in my model, and I was like, wait, why is this Bucs Falcons indoor game like pointing toward the under? But I think Todd Bowles has really, we kind of clowning him a lot as a head coach, but as a straight up just defensive game planner, I think he's coming out with some good plans. I mean, you had that game where they just stymied the Lions like 8 times in the red zone. You had they had a really good game plan against Jalen Hurts. I know he was without a bunch of receivers, but I thought they played that really well. And yeah, the Falcons, I agree. Something's a little off with Cousins. He's almost too system oriented. Like he's getting a little too robotic. He's not really making any plays. He's just putting the ball where it's supposed to be. But in this offense, I feel like it's the Gus Bradley offense, the offensive version of Gus Bradley, like with that just easy to plan for. Like they're mostly in the same personnel. So I think Todd Bowles is probably going to have a good plan for this one. So I'd lean Bucs. I don't really like what I'm seeing from the Falcons. Same issues with Kyle Pitts. One or at least one, maybe 2 offensive linemen banged up. The Bucs have actually, been able to overcome their defensive deficiencies, and the Falcons get no pressure, right? So like
not being able to get any last week against the Saints offensive line that was missing a bunch of guys.
It's a problem.
And I figured their interior would show up, and they couldn't get any pressure.
I think I audibly chuckled when we were talking about the Falcons pressure, because it's like this has been an issue for years now. It doesn't matter who they sign. Every year we get hyped like, oh, they signed Campbell last year. They got Judon. It's like nothing changes. Where are they? Like bottom 5, bottom 6 in the league in pressure rate. They have 4 sacks, which is dead last, of course, last in the league in sacks. So yeah, I would lean Bucs in the under, but it's 1.5. It's essentially saying these teams are pretty even, which is fair, but something might be up with the Falcons, and you kind of think, okay, they're going to regress. Red zone, third down, things like that tend to regress. But we're through a quarter of the season now, and it's looking a little odd, and I think that offense is just it might get easier and easier to prepare for because it's not a lot of variety. So that could be an issue.
I will say, if you like the Falcons, maybe consider a money line. I regret not doing so last week. We talked about this with the Texans. The Falcons in these divisional games, they always seem to end 1 or 2. It just does. They just get into these weird games. It's like a coup field goal late to win, or the other team kicks a field goal. It's uncanny how many Falcons games end under 3. It feels like, at least. I haven't gone back and checked that, but nothing for me here.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I lean Bucs, but I think the line is pretty right. You're not really getting any ton of value. It's not like it's 3 or anything. So let's jump into the Sunday 6-pack. Try to stay hot. Before we do, shout out to our Action Network colleague Sean Zerillo, who had another great year in baseball, finishing the MLB regular season up more than 25 units. And with Action Pro, you get instant notifications every time Zerillo or any of our action experts make a pick in the Action Network app. Just visit actionnetwork.com/pro and use the promo code October for 15% off an Action Pro subscription. That's promo code October, OCTOBER, 15% off actionnetwork.com/pro with the promo code October. And be sure to check Sean out every week talking MLB playoffs on the Payoff Pitch podcast. Very good podcast.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday Six Pack.
All right, Stuck. Got to stay hot. Always tough. You know, the regression monster, the luck monster, going to try to catch up to us. But let's start it off. Let's build our Week 5 Sunday Six Pack. Like I said, 5-0-1 last week. You're up first. Where are you going?
All right, for my first pick of the Week 5 Sunday Six Pack, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers -1.5, anything under 3 is fine, against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. First of all, have to say it, first time I've said it all year, rah-rah spot. Classic Tomlin rah-rah spot. Off a loss at home in prime time against the Dallas Cowboys. The Steelers will be juiced, usually shows up on the defensive side of the ball. That's why a lot of times in these Tomlin rah-rah spots, the unders have been so successful. Steelers are beat up on the offensive line. They've lost 3 guys now. James Daniels has been their best offensive lineman, but I think they should get Samaloa back, who can slot into that guard. Zach Frazier, by the way, he's playing really well at center, the rookie. Cowboys also, have a rookie at center that's not playing particularly well. And, I've clowned him a lot in the past. But if you look at the Steelers' offensive line, who's playing well?
Who?
Left tackle. With Dan Moore. Dan Moore.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Actually playing okay. So the offensive line is not great, but it's not awful. But here's the thing. The Steelers want to run the ball. And Justin Fields has played well. I mean,
yes,
he's exceeded all of my expectations. He can use his legs to extend drives. He's making smart throws. He's picking and choosing the right times when to get the ball downfield to Pickens. And he just really has a command of this offense. But this offense wants to run first and rely on its defense. Can they do that here? Well, yes, because the Cowboys cannot stop the run. 31st in line yards, 31st in rush efficiency, 31st in EPA per rush. They can't stop the run at all. And most importantly, no DeMarcus Lawrence, no Micah Parsons.
There you go.
I mean, without those two, and they don't have a second corner right now, what is this defense? It's a bottom of the barrel unit. I mean, Micah Parsons is one of the most valuable defensive players in the NFL. And you don't have him and Lawrence. I mean, look at that defensive line. I just don't see much here. And if they're giving up a ton of explosive runs, that's where Pitt has thrived. And going back to Fields, he's 11th in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite. Dak's 22nd. You know why Dak's struggling a bit? It's like he doesn't have any help. They can't run the ball. There's no run game to speak of. There's no explosiveness there. The offensive line is struggling. Their rookies are struggling. You have 2 good guards, but the rest of the unit is pretty underwhelming. You have no help in the run game. It's mainly, what can I get the ball to Lamb? Well, he gets all the attention. So there's just not much help. So I really like this matchup because what's going to happen here is Dallas can't run the ball. There's going to be a lot of known passing situations for Dallas. And what's going to happen is TJ Watt is inevitable. He's probably going to have a huge play in this game. There's going to be pressure on Prescott. The Pittsburgh linebackers, I mean, I was never a fan of Patrick Queen. They're not great in coverage. So maybe, the tight ends, Ferguson, can have a big day here. but they're best at rushing the passer, known passing downs. That's their strength, which they can do here. So, yeah, I mean, look, Steelers should be able to run it, making things easier on Fields, who can also use his legs, take his shots to Pickens. Cowboys won't be able to run it, won't be able to protect Dak. And look, one of the biggest advantages that the Cowboys have is their kicker, Brandon Aubrey, who can like make one from anywhere on the field. Steelers have a pretty good kicker themselves, most accurate now in NFL history. So they could match, and it's a really tough stadium to kick in. So, yeah, I like the Steelers here. Rah-rah spot. It just can't be overstated enough, the loss of both Lawrence and, more importantly, Michael Parsons for this defense that already had no chance of stopping the run. And that's what the Steelers want to do. Rely on the D, run the ball. They can do that here.
I agree with the pick, but I actually have a hot take. I think the Steelers are a better passing team than running team right now. I mean, because you remember, Cordell Patterson, Jaylen Warren, those guys are both banged up. So you're really Najee Harris. And
they might come back this week for what it's worth.
I mean, well, I don't know, because they did they signed to the active roster Aaron Shamplin out of Harvard. So I feel like at least one of them is going to be out. I'm guessing it's Patterson, but yeah, Steelers' run game is kind of hit or miss right now. But I think Fields has really impressed me. I mean, the weird drop back, fumbling, unforced errors notwithstanding last week in that game, that just felt like it was never going to end and I was going to lose that cover. But yeah, I think what you'll probably see is Dallas sell out to try to stop the run and just see if Pittsburgh will, take its shots and go down the field and then adjust from there. Because I mean, I don't really see any other way to play it if you're Dallas. Like, you're not going to just sit back. You're not scared of Fields, but I think Fields in a passing game is actually gonna be their best means of offense.
Yeah, the Dallas secondary has holes too because of injuries. They made Daniel Jones looked elite against them. I mean, the Cowboys, they got pretty fortunate in that game. The Giants were 0-2 in the red zone.
5
lost
field goals,
the turnover
right?
battle. Yeah. But Daniel Jones looked great, and I thought the Steelers were unlucky last week. They had that fumble. They just got in a hole. They were probably the better team overall start to finish. So I think they come out strong here. And Dak is better versus man. Last year he was twice as efficient versus man than zone. Steelers run a ton of zone here. Their cover 3 usage is up there with the Panthers this year. So you're going to see a lot of zone on the back end. You're going to see a lot of pressure. I think the Steelers get it done at home in a rah-rah spot. And I'm also happy that I got to do this so our producer can throw in some Tomlin clips. I don't know if he's used the hot dog one. Maybe he'll throw that one in there. I can't give you the ingredients to the hot dog, something like that. But where are you going for your first pick?
For my first pick in the second overall of the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, I am going with the Denver Broncos -1.5, anything under 3, or take the money line. But love the Broncos this week against the Las Vegas Raiders. This defense, as you mentioned earlier, is excellent. And this Raider team is just in a bad spot because you're not going to have Devontae Adams. Looks like Mayer is still away from the team as well. Your right tackle, Thayer Mumford, looks like he's going to be out now too. Crosby's still not practicing, but your offense is in dire straits. You got Minshew against a defense that's top 5 in pressure rate, top 5 in DVOA, number 1 in yards per play allowed at 4.2. Can blitz, can pressure. Minshew, when he's pressured, his passer rating goes from 96 to 62 this year. He's probably due for more mistakes than he's even made this year. He's held up pretty well. I mean, he started off with those 3 straight, 275-yard games or something. But I thought the Raiders, both teams, to be fair, were extremely lucky to win last week. But the Raiders, I mean, there was a 82-yard touchdown called back. They got a fumble, took it. There was just a lot going on there for this Raider team. But if you can stop the pass for them, they cannot run the ball. Their rush success rate on early downs, 25%, dead last by a mile in the National Football League. They're probably going to give Madison more carries. We know how that's going to go. The minute he becomes not a backup, it's just downhill. But the Broncos, great against the run and the pass, but Riley Moss playing well. The secondary's playing well. The
Brandon
Raiders don't
Jones
have
playing really well at
yeah,
safety.
exactly. Just everyone at safety and everyone at corner. I mean, like Surtain is like kind of going under the radar, but he's shutting people down. McMillan in the like everyone's playing well for this team. They're getting pressure, and if you can't pass efficiently, if you're Vegas, which they do not project to be able to do in this matchup, it's going to be really tough. And then this Bronco team is already middle of the pack in DVOA. I figured they would start to get better a couple weeks ago, and they ended up doing that. Sean Payton's gonna figure it out. We saw that last year, even with a team he kind of dragged to 8 wins with Russell Wilson. So I think this defense is for real. And offensively, yeah, we make fun of Bo Nix. It was, just disgusting last week. And on top of that, they try to get some more explosiveness in the run game with Beatty. He gets seriously injured and fumbles, and it was just a mess. But some positives: this Vegas defense not very good. Bottom 10 in pretty much all metrics, and you have
what the top bottom 10 now, by the way, is preventing the explosive pass. Do you know that doesn't matter against the Broncos?
Right, exactly. So, and let's think about for a second, because Bo Nix, I know it's disgusting. It's hard to bet on Bo Nix, especially as a favorite. But let's consider something. He's a rookie. He's had 4 starts. The defenses he faced.
He's faced that's crazy.
Pittsburgh, Seattle, which is a top 8 DVOA defense, even though I know that they got crushed by Detroit, but still.
That was when they were healthy. Seattle was missing like 5 starters. They were healthy and they got first talent. Game in Seattle.
And then he faced the Jets. We know the Jets are really good. And
in conditions, in weather conditions.
Yeah.
Rodgers didn't do anything either.
Right. So like 3 of the 4, and even the Bucs, like we said, Todd Bowles he's has them playing pretty above their talent level anyway, considering all the injuries. So yeah, it can look a lot different this week, kind of like a couple weeks ago against the Bucs, where
D injuries, not elite day.
Yeah, and what I do like about Sean Payton is he's not just doing that thing that you expect, especially like the older coaches to do with a young rookie quarterback. He's like, I'm just going to hand the ball off. Like, he's passed so much that now he can go ahead and run it. And I think the defense probably won't even be expecting it. He started to run it a little bit more in that second half against the Jets, which I thought was smart. But overall, I like the fact that he's gotten Knicks just a shit ton of dropbacks. So the experience is going to be there. And the tendencies, you don't actually know what's going to happen. It's positive that Javonte got going. I don't know if that's going to last, but it is a positive. So yeah, I just think that this Raider team's not going to be able to score. I think the Broncos get some turnovers. I think their defenses, their offense, they're playing really good special teams as well. So yeah, like the Broncos, under 3, money line, whatever you want to do. Give me Denver. And remember, tough place to go play in Denver. So Raiders, they got off with that home win indoors last week. Now you're coming out to Denver. It's going to be tough. So yeah, give me the Broncos. Where are you going next?
Yeah, this would have been one of my plays for what it's worth, but you selected it. They also have Dylan Parham got banged up. I think he'll play, but he's their best offensive lineman. He had to come out of the game last week. Raiders, their 2 wins. They were down double digits against the Ravens, got ridiculous penalties. Lucky win. Got completely outplayed. Against the Browns, down double digits. Browns lose all kinds of players, offensive linemen, and they need a horrendous holding call on 80-yard penalty, and then need a red zone stop at the end. Raiders extremely fortunate, and you nailed it with who Knicks has faced. I think they'll be able to run the ball here. I don't think Crosby's going to play either. That's huge. And Raiders want to take away the explosive play. That's not really. That doesn't really matter that much against the Broncos. Broncos' offensive line playing well. This kid, Palczewski, as he took over at right tackle, 75 pass block snaps, 2 pressures allowed. He's playing well. And the Broncos are just blitzing like crazy. 52% on first down, 45% on third down, 40% on third down, 67% on fourth downs. All top 5 in the league. They're getting pressure. Minshew turns into a pumpkin under pressure. That's the difference here. I prefer the money line, by the way. Profiles is a low-scoring game. Could be like a weird, field goal game. So that's the route I went. But for my second pick and the third overall, the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, we're back, baby. We're going with the Carolina Panthers, +4 against the Chicago Bears. I know it hurts to do, but the Panthers did get me and us a cover against the Raiders. I didn't bet them last week, so I think I'm absolved of my sins. I think the Bears were extremely fortunate last week against a Rams team that was decimated by injuries. I mean, the Rams were 1 of 4 in the red zone, -2 turnover margin. They were close to a yard better in net yards per play. And this is a team without its whole offensive line, without Cup, without Nakua. So the Bears have 2 wins this year. The Titans, which, by the way, the Titans have 1 win. One of the most fraudulent wins in the NFL over the past 25 years. You get 2 ridiculous touchdowns, come back without ever scoring an offensive touchdown. I don't want to talk about that game anymore. Meanwhile, I thought the Panthers were pretty unlucky last week against the Bengals. They were stopped on the goal line to start the game. They had a turnover inside their own 20 that led to a touchdown. And then the Bengals scored in the final play of the half by like an inch.
When he slipped.
When he slipped.
Yeah.
Huge swing.
I will say this. They deserve all that shit for that sorry-ass tackling job on the Jamar Chase touchdown, because that was just ridiculous. Like, I have never seen worse. I don't know if I've seen worse tackling. But no, I agree. They were very unlucky.
And then they tried a fake punt, and it didn't work. It was close to working. They didn't, and then the Bengals had a short field. But the yardage was, it was like 375 to 373. The upgrade to Andy Dalton cannot be overstated. I mean, let's look. He's 7th in adjusted EPA per play at 0.21. Caleb Williams is 28. You know what Bryce Young is? 33rd at -0.5. I mean, an adjusted EPA per play. That's an unheard of, unbelievably bad number. That's like, I think I was going back and looking. That's like Luke Falk is like the only guy you'll see in that territory. It's as bad as it gets. But this Panthers offense is now competent.
Yeah,
and
they can block. They can block.
They can block. #1 in the NFL in pressure rate allowed. I mean, I think they're, let's see, pressure percentage allowed on true dropback percentages. Panthers 16.5%. That's by far the best in the league. So Dalton's getting time. Dalton looks great. So yeah, this offense is competent. The Bears defense is good.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers offensive line will be able to handle them. And this is more of a fade of the Bears as a favorite. They have to win by significant margin now. It's different, much different laying just a field goal or under than 4. And this Bears offense it just doesn't look right. The offensive line is bad. They're just not playing well. They can't really run the ball. Swift had some success last week, but this is still a bad rushing offense. That's how you really attack the Panthers. What happened? What was the Panthers win this year? Against the Raiders, a team that can't run the ball with a struggling quarterback, right? That's how, and the Panthers defense, by the way, the Panthers defense keeps losing guys, and they're not talented, but they're playing just above their heads. Everyone's playing better because of this quarterback change. Like, just the morale is better. And I think they're going to, with their coverages on the back end, Everett does a good job there with his zone looks. I think they'll probably confuse Caleb into a mistake or two. And they're blitzing a lot more because they can't generate pressure any other way. The Bears have been lost against the blitz. I mean, completely lost. So I think they can have some success there. But Caleb Williams leads the league in inaccurate pass rate. He's just off target too much. The offense just hasn't got going. This is just too many points. And the Bears have 2 one-possession wins. They were both completely lucky at home against the Rams practice squad and, Will Levis by just throwing the game away. So, yeah, I think there's too much value here in the Panthers. The upgrade is astronomical to Darnold.
Darnold?
Darnold. Oh, wow. Freudian slip. Oh, boy.
Where's PJ Walker at?
Oh, man. No, it's the Red Rocket is a massive upgrade, and the offensive line just gives them a chance. They have talented skill position players. It's just a whole different operation. So give me the Panthers +4 on the road in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't get to the -4. And I agree the Bears were lucky. I am a little concerned about this game just because I do think there's some uncertainty with I talked about it last week. The Bears are offensively, like, actively making changes that are benefiting them. Like, they did kind of switch up the run scheme a little last week. They're getting Komet on the field and the tight ends on the field more. And if they do that against the Panthers, which would be the right thing to do, they could have some success. And, Williams was dumping it off to the running back a lot more, which did, he's still inaccurate, but he's cutting down on those like terrible negative plays where he's just running around doing nothing and either throwing it inaccurately or taking a sack because he's dumping it off more. So like there are things where we might see a Bears blow up spot at any time now. That's got me a little worried, but I agree. It's Panthers or nothing here at Bears -4. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching, but this is a team that has not scored. I mean, they scored 24 against Tennessee thanks to a block punt, touchdown, and a pick six. They scored 13 against Houston. They scored 16 against the Colts defense, and then they only
should
scored
have had 23. But
they scored
and
then they scored 24 against the Rams, but they had a 16-yard touchdown drive. They had a late field goal at the end of the half after the Rams missed a field goal. So the second half operation looked better, but they've been getting fortunate in their wins with how their points are coming, and they're still not clearing 24. So, yeah, I like the Panthers here. Where are you going next?
For my second pick and the fourth overall, the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, let's go with the Houston Texans +1.5, +1 if you can't get the 1.5, against the Buffalo Bills. And when I first started to break down this game, I thought I was going to land on, okay, bounce back spot for the Bills. Texans just haven't been quite right. But the more I dive into this matchup, the more I think the Texans just have an edge and shouldn't be a home underdog at all, because the Texans, yes, their offense hasn't looked quite right, but it's a lot of things that are correctable. Penalties, just lots and lots of stupid penalties. Looks like you're getting Tank Dell back this week. And with those receivers, even if you don't have Dell, you still have Diggs, you still have Nico. But what you could do with those receivers and CJ Stroud's accuracy, in the intermediate and deep levels of the field, is you can attack the Buffalo safeties. And the Buffalo safeties are not good. You got DeMar Hamlin, you got Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp's in the concussion protocol, I think. So like this safety group is weak for Buffalo. So this could be a spot where Houston gets right. And Houston, it seems a little kind of like meh for them, but they're 3-1, just like the Bills. They've outgained their opponents in every game, even the Minnesota loss. The Bills only did outgain their opponents in 2 out of 4. And I think this offense is going to have some success throwing the ball against these safeties. And then on the other side, we know what Buffalo wants to do is run. And Houston is a top 5 defense in run in adjusted line yards and run defense DVOA. They've been very good against the run. They've been good overall. I mean, they're 6th in DVOA on defense, better than the Bills actually. But you have a Buffalo team that really hadn't trailed much at all until last week. And when they start trailing, that's when things start to unravel.
Splitting out. They start splitting out Josh Allen.
Right. And
on the ball.
And Houston has the offense to get a lead on Buffalo. And that's really important, because not only does Buffalo kind of get out of their comfort zone, which, they under Brady, they want to run, but Khalil Shakir is on the injury report with an ankle injury. He is their by far best receiver. That's big. And on top of that, Houston,
NFL record 30 straight. Their NFL record got broken. 30 targets catches, in a row with a catch. That's insane.
Imagine Khalil Shakir and Jared Goff on the same team. But yeah, Shakir, that's big, even if he's not 100%, because none of their other receivers are 100% at anything. Like these are just spare parts. Coleman, maybe he'll get there, but I don't think he's ready yet. He's kind of flashed here and there. I do like the kid, but Anyway, what I was saying, so this Buffalo team gets behind. You don't have Shakir, and in Houston, not only have they been really good on defense, but they're number one against the tight end. So we know this Buffalo team, especially because their wide receivers were shaky, they've been going to a lot of two tight end personnel. They just, Dawson Knox continues to be a big part of their offense. So Houston pretty much matches up perfectly. I mean, Buffalo's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason they're a road favorite. Much respect to Buffalo, but Houston pretty much matches up perfectly. They have the chops to attack Buffalo where they're weakest on defense, and not just like, oh yeah, they're missing some linebackers. Like, no, I'm talking about like really attack them with their safeties, down the field and create some explosives. And then on the other side, they stop the run and they can cover tight ends. It's just a really good matchup for the Houston Texans. So I like the Texans here as an underdog. CJ Stroud also just a lot better playing at home for whatever reason. I mean, not for whatever reason. Many quarterbacks are like that, but you look at Stroud's home road splits. At home, he's 8-2. On the road, he's 4-5. At home, 8.7 yards per attempt, 9.4 adjusted yards per attempt. On the road, 7.3 and 7.5. So he's kind of just like an average, everyday Kirk Cousins on the road. At home, that's when he turns into CJ Stroud. 20 touchdowns, 4 picks at home, just 9-3 on the road. So give me the Texans.
Yeah, this is the way I would look as an underdog. I do want Joe Mixon to play. He didn't practice today, but that's expected of that. If he practices tomorrow and Friday and plays, that's big, because what's happening to the Texans, the operation's off. You mentioned the penalties, some of that, like Minnesota, they had I think they have like 3 or 4 straight. It was either false starts or illegal mode. It was a mess.
It's always ridiculous.
They've definitely had some penalty issues, but Mixon's important because what's happening to the Texans is what happened to the Chiefs a couple years ago, and it's still happening to a certain extent, is that last year, I mean, CJ Stroud was an explosive play merchant. I mean, there was just explosive plays all over. He was the one guy, right? This whole league is just no one throwing down the field. I guess now this year it's Darnold and
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson just chucking it down there. But Stroud was that one guy. So what's happening? Way more cover 2.
Yep.
Tripled. Opponents have tripled their cover 2 usage against Stroud this year, trying to take away that explosive play. McDermott knows how to run a cover 2. That's the entire premise of the Bills defense, is they want to prevent those explosive plays. Now, their safeties aren't very good. What do you have to do to you have to draw the safeties in. You got to establish the run a bit. It's what the Chiefs do. You got to run against that defense and do it effectively. Texans haven't had an effective run game in recent years, but you've seen it with Mixon. So I think Mixon's presence here is important. I do lean towards him playing, which I think is key here.
Yeah, he was close. He was close last week, and yeah, he did. He got like,
he practiced on Friday and then got scratched.
But I was gonna say, who did score a rushing touchdown for the Texans last game? Who's going to be very, very involved in this game plan?
Bunwale.
Right.
Okay.
British.
Didn't he score a touchdown?
Yeah, no, he did. He scored the game-winning touchdown right before that. We like that crazy sequence at the end where I thought we lost the cover or something. I was like, why are they spiking the ball?
After all, not being able to get a single score in the final minutes for an entire month. If the other team scored on that to cover, I was on a corner TV and I said, I'm watching, my stomach is just dropped because there was a penalty on the kick. And I'm like, the kick return. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Now Lawrence missed the first throw, that's what you need. You need the first throw to be complete. Then the risk is gone. And I'm like, here comes his SVP who says, pitchy woo woo. They throw it back twice. And then I didn't even realize this. I saw this in the replay that it bounced. Bounced at the goal line, bounced up. It's on one of my corner TVs, my smaller TVs. All of a sudden, I see the Texans celebrating. The final score comes up, the final score graphic, and I'm like, what is going on? What did they call? I'm waiting for the 24 to flip to a 30.
The exact
luckily
same.
I had 7. So I was like, all right, safety's fine. But I know that some people got a worse number, so I was like, that would be awful too. And it didn't change. I'm pulling up the app. I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm like, all right, they just ruled him that it was forward progress at the 1. That was scary.
Oh my God.
I've had a couple of those. I've never had a pitchy woo go my way. Had a couple went against me. They are horrendous. They're so scary. You see it coming, and then it's so disgusting. Anyway, I agree with that pick here. For my third pick and the 5th overall of the Sunday 6-pack, I'm sorry. I'm going with the Cleveland Browns plus 3.5 against the Washington Commanders. It's just all a numbers game. If the Jets were 3, I would take the Jets. We'll talk about that game later. If the Bengals were 3, I would take the Bengals at 3. I have my concerns with both. I have my concerns with the Browns. My 3 favorite bets that were going to be my picks were going to be the Steelers, the Panthers, and the Broncos. You took the Broncos. The only other bet that I like right now that I bet myself is the Browns plus 3.5, minus 115. Still out there. There's a lot of uncertainty, which is I bet it smaller. I'll bet it bigger once I get the injury report. Like, is Njoku going to play? Who on their offensive line is going to play? Did they get their tackles back this week because they lost their center? What's Poach's status? There's so many injuries. Hicks, I think, is important too. But the Commanders' love is at an all-time high. I mean, we just saw the Bills offense for 3 straight games destroy bad defenses. What happens? They go to Baltimore, and what are they were outgained by what? What did Josh Allen have, like 70 yards in the first half? This is a different test. Look, the Commanders' offense looks awesome. I think it's still early, but I think I was wrong on Daniels. I thought he was going to be more like...
Just say his name. Just get it out of the way now. Just give him his props. Just give him his props. Just give Cliff his props.
No, the problem is because I do our college podcast too. So I always, and I never want to say his name wrong, because the Kansas quarterback is Jalen Daniels, and then the Commanders quarterback is Jaden Daniels. So I'm always in my head always is flipping him. But Jaden Daniels, he's been tremendous. I mean, like literally flawless. They punted once in their past 3 games.
Yeah, he had 1 pick. He had the 1 pick against Arizona too.
1 pick on an overthrow. The offense looks great, but I mean, they played the Giants, one of the worst secondaries, if not the worst, in the NFL. They played the Bengals, who didn't have a defensive line. So they were able to establish the run and then just make easy throws. And then Daniels made an incredible throw at the end of the game down the sidelines to McLaurin. He's not missing right now. And then you played the Cardinals defense, one of the worst in the league. So it could not have been an easier path. Now you're going to play a completely different type of defense. A lot of cover 1, more aggressive, right? They've been playing these more passive secondaries, which enables them to run what they want to run. It's a different story with the Browns, with their corners and how they play and aggressive. Like, this is a completely different scheme. Also, just a completely different class of defense. So I don't think the Washington offense is going to look as good. By the way, if you want to bet, I might even come back and bet Washington small live, because the Browns offense, when they're really good? The first drive of the game. The Stefanski script has been tremendous. They go down, they score a touchdown the first drive of every game, and then they don't do anything. So I might come back. They don't do anything for us.
That's the perfect soundbite for Deshaun Watson's whole season right there. Whatever that just was. I totally agree.
Look, I will say Watson looked okay last week. He had all kinds of offensive line.
The Raiders.
Drops. Yes, but it's the Commanders. Commanders defense is horrendous, and you're asking them to win by margin now against a totally different defense. This is the top of the market on the Commanders. The Commanders, a 3.5 point favorite. I have to take the Browns here. The injuries could all work against me here, but I have to take it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're on the right side. I bet on the Browns once this year and they covered for me, and I feel like I just escaped. It's just.
Yeah, I had them too with you against Jacksonville.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's just such a struggle, though. It shouldn't be such a struggle. Like, it just shouldn't be. Because like you said, Stefanski, very good coach. I don't think he really wants Watson as his quarterback. I think it's like an ownership mandate or something, and he's trying to make do. But yeah, it's always a struggle. But if they get Njoku back, they should, that the skill group should have some success. I think Judy could have a big game too. Elijah Moore's been squeaking. Maybe he'll get involved. And they're going to get a third running back finally. I think Pierre Strong is back. And Chubb got designated. He's not going to play.
He was fifth in line. But come on, please play.
He's not.
But I don't think he's going to play. Hopefully Njoku does. Hopefully you get some of the tackles back. But I have to just take this number. Like, I cannot get there. And this is the peak of and this is a different defensive test for Washington. It's not going to look as easy as it has. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to knock you because my pick might be even more disgusting for my third and final pick, the 6th overall of the week 5 Sunday 6-pack. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars, a -3 at home against the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is their win. I know they got their cover last week. I think this is their win. I think this could be a little bit of a get-right spot for the Jaguars because we know what the Colts do defensively, which is a lot of cover 3 under Gus Bradley. Trevor Lawrence this year, even against cover 3, 8.5 yards an attempt, 66% completion rate. And remember, on the season, just overall, his completion rate is like 53 and his yards per attempt is 6.0. So pretty much the only kind of defense he's having success against. He has been getting unlucky. He has a 12% drop rate of his targets. That is number 1 among qualified quarterbacks. The Jaguars lost 3 one-score games, by 3, 5, and 4. So we all remember the Bills won because it was on prime time, but they've been right there in all their other games. Their offense has been okay, not as bad as it, as the results, because they're 14th in early down success rate, 16th pass, 12th with the run, which kind of surprised me, but they're 30th in third down, 28th in the red zone. Well, why do we look at early down success rate? Because sample is larger and it tends to be more predictive. Things like third down rate, red zone, if you're decent at early downs, tend to regress, towards that mean. So that's what's working for them on offense. And then you have the Colts injured reserve, DeForest Buckner, Samson Ebukam, Tyquan Lewis, Juju Brent. Looks like Jonathan Taylor is going to miss this game. So you're going to have Trey Sermon. You might have Joe Flacco. And if I do think Flacco is probably a bit of an upgrade on Richardson, at least for now. But let's not forget he's a turnover machine. 10 picks on 265 attempts last year, 11 turnover-worthy plays. That's rates of 3.8 and 4%. He had 2 turnover-worthy plays last week. So it's either him, who's a turnover machine, or Richardson, who's a turnover machine. And this is just always the Jaguar spot. The Colts are an indoor team. They come to Jacksonville, and they just never seem to get it done. Since 2015, Jacksonville 8-0 at home, straight up 8-0 against the spread against Indianapolis, covering by an average of 20.1 points per game. So it's ugly, but give me the Jags here.
Yeah, I think this is the side. I want I'll probably be on this in some form or fashion. I want Richardson to start against that man defense. He's so inaccurate. I think is Josh Hines out? Is he out? He might be out.
Yeah, it's ugly on both sides.
So the Jags have no defense. Yeah, the Colts, you didn't even mention, like Ryan Kelly, their center, he might be out again. Kwity Paye didn't practice today. Kenny Moore is probably their most important defender.
It's like a preseason game.
The Colts defense is, it's the practice squad right now. So Lawrence, they should be able to move the ball here, but I think Flacco would be able to move the ball too. Like, no Allen, there's no secondary there. Richardson, I don't think could take full advantage of Jacksonville's man coverage, but I want to see how this. And you mentioned Taylor. I also think if Flacco starts and Taylor doesn't, this is a sneaky. I don't really like divisional game outdoor overs, but sneaky over. Like both teams probably going to hit a ton of explosive plays. Jacksonville, really explosive offense. There's no one in either secondary. If there's no Taylor, you're going to see just the ball flying around.
65% chance of rain though. That.
Yeah, so I want to watch injury report, watch the weather, but it could be a sneaky over. But I like your side there. So that'll wrap it.
All right. So we got let's see what quarterbacks we got here. You got Justin Fields, the Red Rifle, and Deshaun Watson. I got Bo Nix.
What I think I called him the Red Rocket earlier. I called him Darnold too. I know.
Yeah.
What am I?
I called Darnold Tim Bradford last week. But he came through. So
it worked out. It worked. So maybe this is the new thing. We gotta mispronounce the quarterbacks.
So yeah, you got Pittsburgh -1.5, Carolina +4, and the Browns +3.5. I got the Broncos -1.5, the Texans +1.5, and the Jags -3. All right, for this week's Coach's Pep Talk, we're going to NFL Hall of Famer Michael Irvin, and we're going to dedicate this to Mike McDaniel.
You know, I use great moments to pull greatness out of great men. I did not send David to slay Goliath. I sent Goliath to prove to David that what resides in him is a giant slayer. This giant that sits before you today, he is not for your destruction, it is for your construction. So you play together and you slay this giant. Don't let no one come into your house, take your meal, do what you need to do today.
I mean,
looks lost on the
side. I believed in you, Mike. I believed in you on Monday night, and you didn't come through for me.
Yeah. O'Connell 4-0 with Darnold was great with backups last year. LaFleur 2-0 with Willis this year. Steichen winning with backups last year. McDaniel, Tua goes down, and the entire operation is completely dysfunctional. He's on the sidelines, just looking like a Starbucks barista, just clueless. I mean, it is.
Man. Chill out, man. You know I gotta stay fresh.
He's too into. His own Miami makeover. It's like get your offense right. It is a disaster, man.
You know what's crazy? I had to as I was going through. I watch every preseason snap, and I remember I was watching the Dolphins game, and I think we had already found out that they had cut Mike White, but I was still watching the last Dolphins game, and I was like, why I just didn't understand why he would keep Skylar Thompson, period. I didn't understand. I was like, that's interesting. And then I just filed it away, thought I would never have to think about it again. And
I said on the preseason pod, it's a mistake that they let him go. Legend, Mike White, listener of the show.
I mean, he's like an NFL quarterback. He's not scary. He can stand in and take a hit and throw the ball. These other quarterbacks are just, it's like putting a freaking Make-A-Wish person out there. So I don't even know.
Dolphins haven't had a lead the entire season. The first through 4 games, the first team to accomplish
the Jaguars
that feat.
Lost to him, right?
Yeah, the first team to accomplish that feat since the winless Browns, the 0-16 Browns.
The Hugh Jackson, Todd Haley Browns.
By the way, speaking of the Browns, going back to my Browns pick, Cliff Kingsbury getting all the love right now. We haven't seen this before. September Cliff. Everything's going right. Offense is unstoppable. This team's going to the playoffs. Once you start seeing pumpkins on doorsteps, it all starts to go downhill. The best fade in the NFL in recent years, Cliff towards the end of the season. Prove me wrong this weekend, Cliffy.
I mean, the sad thing is that in a month, we might be saying that same exact thing, except insert Kyler Murray for Cliff Kingsbury, because I don't. It's like
Call of Duty's coming out soon.
Where's Kyler? Why is he? It's like I just feel like Kyler Murray should be better than this, and the fact that Cliff is doing this with Jaden is just, I think, very worried. It's just if I'm a Cardinals fan, I just don't feel good about that at all.
October 25th, New Call of Duty comes out.
Yeah, it's not even out yet, and he's already whatever. Let's not. We'll talk about that game, but let's get to our favorite total of the week. Great, terrible week for totals for us last week. I think both of our totals had like 30 points in the first half each, so not the best. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Steelers Cowboys under, and the reason being it's jumped up a couple points. I think it's up to 44.5 now. And I get that, they're Cowboys have defenders out, but I do think the Steelers are still going to try to run the ball. And it probably is going to be a lot of Najee Harris, which is actually better for the under. But also, you got rain in the forecast, number one. Rah-rah Tomlin spot. So the defense is going to show up. Number two, indoor team that excels at home, coming outdoors into the conditions. Dallas Cowboys
excel at home as a
lot of things to still like the under for me in this spot, and I do not think that Dallas's offense is anywhere close to what it's been even last year. I mean, the running game's not existent. You talked about the running game's non-existent. The O-line isn't as good. Brandon Cooks is out, so the receivers are thin. So yeah, and I think there's this crazy stat, and it held up last week. I think Evan Abrams said it on Convince Me that, or maybe it was Nick Giffen, but whoever it was, they said that Justin Fields has never won a game where the opponent scored more than 20
points.
So we like Justin Fields to win this one, and the Steelers to get right in this rah-rah spot. So at least one of the teams will probably be under 20. So give me the Cowboys Steelers under. We'll see how far it goes first. No rush to bet it because it just went up to 44.5, so it might even hit 45. But that's where I'm going. Where are you going?
Any trend in the world says bet the under here. Any total above 50 has gone under like the last couple of years. It's insane at like 70-80% clip. Outdoor divisional game. I mean,
not Cliff.
Not Cliff. I don't see. Look, now the Bengals, I don't know who's going to play the defensive line. I'm probably going to the Bengals here. I won a 3. I just can't get this number. It's a great spot. Ravens off that huge win. This is the peak of their market again. See it all the time. But I think the Bengals, their offensive line is playing well. Burrow's getting all day. They have the receivers, unlike the Bills, to take advantage of the Ravens on the outside. Burrow's moving the ball extremely well. He had his like early week. We always see him start to tick up. And the last 2 weeks, he's been great. So I think the Bengals are getting, to 27, 20. I think this turns into a shootout. And how are the Bengals getting stops? This Ravens offense firing all cylinders. And especially another key is like who's playing on the Bengals defensive line? Like Hendrickson dealing with an injury. Do they get Rankings and Hill back? Because if not, I don't see any path for the Bengals defense to get stops. I mean, even the Panthers were running all over them. Panthers can't run the ball. So, yeah, I think this turns into a shootout. Bengals are just a pure over team right now. The market always bets their unders for some reason, and they just go over every week. So, 51 key, 50.5's out there. I like this over. And you might be able to get out in front of some of the injury news of like the Bengals just don't have a defensive line. How are they going to stop the run? So give me the over there. And I do like the Bengals, regardless of the injuries. If this gets to 3, got to take the number. Like the Ravens are not a field goal plus home field advantage better than the Bengals. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was hoping you would be on that side because I don't like to bet against you with the Ravens, but I'm gonna be looking for that 3. As well, and I lean over.
Last team with the ball.
Yeah, like I can't see who gets stops in this game. I'm guessing if there's money coming in on the under or anything like that, it's probably just okay. We know that the Ravens kind of went the ultra run heavy these last few weeks. Maybe they're thinking it just bleeds the clock, but like you said, they're going to be efficient doing it. So we know Derrick Henry doesn't take long to score with him. So yeah, I mean that way as well. So we got Cowboys.
There's a lot of reasons to you could make a case for the under. If you look at both of these teams, let me look. They are from a neutral pace perspective. Yeah, I mean, they're both bottom 10. So neither is like really fast, but the Bengals are going to be throwing the entire game. They're like I think they're number 1 in neutral pass rate.
Yep.
And the Ravens are just
maybe the Browns
efficiently moving the ball all day. So while the pace isn't there, it's an outdoor division. I still think this is a shootout. It's like, I think it ends like 31-28 someone.
Yeah. Now it's a little more questions of who that someone is, because Justin Tucker been a little shaky lately. But yeah, it should be a good one. And I agree. I see this is a game I just see points. I mean, unless the Ravens just come out on their like sleepy, after a big win, they just come out with it. But it's a division game against the Bengals. I don't know. I see more ways to the over. So Bengals, Ravens over 50.5. And then Cowboys Steelers under 44.5. See if it gets to 45. It was going up as we are recording this. Let's go to our favorite teaser of the week. I mean, we can't buy one this year. We used to, I think last year we hit almost all our teasers. This year we hit like none of our teasers. So
unbelievable. The Jets hurt.
Yeah. I'm actually switching out. I'm pivoting. I know I said I was going to use the Jets, but I'm actually pivoting out of them. I still don't feel good about this Jet team against the Vikings. Just I don't want a defense on defense matchup with like a key difference maker in Jefferson on off. Like I don't want any parts of it. Are you still? You're going with the Jets though, right?
Yeah, I mean, sees them up over a low total. I show value in the number, and then I'll throw. I'll throw Houston in there if you can get them above a touchdown.
All right, Jets from 2.5 to 8.5. Remember that game is the early start in London. So if you are going to bet that game or you want any action on that game, just remember it's starting about 4 hours before the rest of the Sunday games. So Jets, Houston, and I'll go. Let's get ugly with one part. We just talked about Mike McDaniel. Well, he's a 1-point underdog right now to the Patriots. No, 1.5-point underdog to the Patriots. So, I mean, this is what happens when you shit the bet on Monday Night Football. You're an underdog to Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots. I'll take the tease. I'll take the bait. If Miami can't hang around here and at least keep it within one score, I really don't know what to say. And then I'll go on the other side with Seattle, tease them down to half point. Looks like they're 6.5. I just think the Giants are going to be a little bit out of sorts. I mean, Neighbors still he's in the early stages of protocol, so he's kind of against it to get cleared. Yes, you got the long rest and Seattle's on a short week, but I just think the Seattle offense with Kenneth Walker healthy, the defense,
Geno's playing really well.
Cover. Geno's playing really well. And they actually tend to do well against the Giants. You'd think this would be like a letdown spot, but I think, what are they, 27-6 last year, 27-13, something like that. So I just don't really see the Giants pulling off the upset in this spot. They can be feisty at times. They did look better against Dallas, but that might be saying more about Dallas. So yeah, give me the Seattle Seahawks, and we'll take the Miami Dolphins and hope they can keep it close against the Jacoby Brissett.
What a low! There's no weather. No weather. The total is sitting at around 35. I have no idea who's playing in this game. They look at the injury reports for both teams are massive. The Patriots offensive line, who's playing there?
Andrews is already out.
They also Duggar got hurt. Who's their other safety? The kid from Michigan. Good player.
Not Peppers.
Peppers. He didn't practice today. He's dealing with an injury, fell on his back. Like, I don't know who's playing in this game. So yeah, if you teasing it up above a touchdown and a total of 35, I guess maybe Snoop has more timing with this offense now. The difference might be in this game. I would lean Patriots. Like the difference. I mean, Miami's run D's been good. I don't know. I mean, Brissett won't turn it over. That might be the difference. And I don't know where this Miami team is mentally, but I don't mind that tease. Also, Seattle. Now, Neighbors, obviously, he doesn't play. That's huge. the defensive line injuries, like they need to get healthier, but that's not as big of a deal against the Giants. They can't run the ball. So
yeah, everyone's like, oh my God, Devin Singletary is gonna just run all over Dallas. What do you get?
They couldn't
12 carries for 20 yards. Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah, that was embarrassing.
All right. So we got the Dolphins and the Houston Texans, and then the Jets and I said that wrong. The Dolphins and the Seattle Seahawks and the Jets and the Houston Texans. All right, now it's time for our money line underdog parlay. Let's see what we got here. So
we almost hit last week. You went.
Yeah.
You changed. By the way, this is how hot Rayvon's been. Last week in the 6-pack, he changed 2 picks. The last minute, he changed Tampa Bay and New Orleans to Chicago and Minnesota. Swapped out 2 winners for 2 other winners.
It's crazy.
But you originally did have Tampa as your money line dog. Changed it to Cleveland, who should have won. But I didn't even mention the Raiders' luck. Cleveland lost that game because they missed the extra point. They would have been able to kick a field goal at the end to tie it too, and then that penalty. So yeah, we hit the 10-1 2 weeks ago. Almost hit again. I had the Vikings last week.
That was a miserable game to watch, by the way. Just waiting. If you had the Vikings, just waiting for it to end, and it would just never end. That game and the Colts game, just terrible. But yeah, where are you going?
I'm going Rams. The Rams stink. They have no one left. Their defense is terrible. Their defensive line, like their draft picks, have all played well the last 2 years up along their front 7. The offense has no offensive lineman left. There's no Nakua. There's no Cup. But it's just a great.
Jordan Whittington, baby.
Whittington, yeah, he got a lot of work.
Atwell too.
So it's just a great spot for the Rams. McVay called them all out. You saw this after the Cardinals game. They ended up, they got a little bit fortunate, but they ended up beating the 49ers. And the Packers, defensive back injuries, some uncertainty there. And it's Stafford at home as a dog, kind of a must-win game. Defense might rally after getting called out. They were unlucky last week. So yeah, that's what I got. I see value in this number too. So
yeah, I was thinking about this one, but it's so tough to handicap the Rams because they kind of exceed expectations, and then they just, I don't know what's up with them in the red zone. You would think Sean McVay coach team with Matthew Stafford, like that would be an area they would do well in, but they've been doing this for like a year and a half now, just throwing away red zone trips. So yeah,
it's a high variance team. Like it comes down to like can McVay have a great game plan here? Like you saw against San Fran, he went with more 2 tight end sets. It's a must-win game. I expect we'll see some wrinkles here that the Packers aren't prepared for. So, give me the Rams.
All right, I'm going to go with the Bengals. We already talked about the game, so I'll keep it short. But the Bengals have the offensive firepower, beat the Ravens. Ravens, a little bit of a letdown spot, coming off a big primetime win, going on the road now. Bengals finally hitting their stride, and now they need this game more than the Ravens do. So
huge game for the division. Yeah. If the Ravens win this game, they're probably winning the division. Sorry, Steelers fan. If the Bengals win it, then Steelers fans, you'll like this. Then you're probably back in it if you beat Dallas on that. And it's a 3-team race probably to the end. Because the Bengals already burned their AFC East advantage. Ravens just beat the Bills, and the Bengals lost at home to the Patriots. That was like one of the benefits of the last place schedule. So you got to beat the Ravens at home for the division. Be a close race throughout. Bengals usually get hot late. So huge game for the division. I agree.
All right. So Rams plus 145, Bengals plus 125, Parlaying plus 450. So not quite the 10-1 that we had a couple weeks ago, but still pretty juicy. And I think both of these teams do have a very good chance of winning their games. Now let's get to best of the rest of games we didn't discuss in any other segment. So it looks like we have just Arizona, San Francisco, and Giants. No, we did Giants, Seattle.
Jets, Vikings.
Wait, no, but didn't you tease the Vikings, the Jets?
Yeah, I will say just a comment on that game because it is the London game. Is like Rodgers, is he going to be healthy? That's something I'm watching with his knee. And like it's really interesting because you could go one of two ways. This is the peak of the market on the Vikings. Like the Vikings are 3 points better on a neutral field. For the Jets, I can't get there. But Rodgers faced the number 1 blitzing defense last week. Now he faces the number 2 blitzing defense. It's interesting that the Packers started to have success against the blitz because they went tempo. The Jets never do that. Slowest team in the league. You're going to see the play clock. So, like, I'm a little bit worried about the protection. And then Rodgers, especially if he's banged up with his knee. But Darnold he's been great, but he's been getting a bit lucky. You look at his like turnover worthy plays, he's getting away with some throws. Like there's some more mistakes coming. The Jets secondary can at least match up with the Vikings receivers. There's not many secondaries that can. So yeah, and it's just a classic buy low, sell high spot. 4-0 Vikings of a huge divisional win going to London against the Jets, who were upset at home against a team that threw for 4 yards at home. You just saw the blitz. I think that helps you a bit. And they make the adjustments. Is Rodgers healthy? I think the Jets at 3, I have to take them, even though I do have my concerns. But
yeah, I honestly would. I'm off the Jets. I think they have some real issues, and Rodgers is probably the only non-issue. But it's not as simple anymore as just Rodgers making everybody better, because this is just a different type of team, inexperienced at certain receiver spots. That's why he's throwing to Lazard so much.
They need more Brady than Allen.
Nothing's working.
More Allen.
Oh, absolutely. But like the coaching isn't great. The line isn't great. Now the defense is showing cracks in all different levels. Like nothing's really going right for them. I don't know if they.
I agree. There's
not
much to like.
That quick.
It's
yeah.
But the line's 3. So like,
I mean,
that's all it is.
Three's king.
Three's king.
I can see the Vikings. I can see this not being the peak of the Vikings market because the Jets, they have issues. But final game, I was thinking about this one, but it's a classic buy low spot. Cardinals at Niners plus 7.5. The total is 49.5. The Cardinals have been within 7 in 2 of their 3 losses, and then they blew out the Rams in their other game. But I mean, I just don't know if this. Like, I don't know what to expect from this defense. I don't know if they could just kind of.
How are they going to get a single stop?
Right. Yeah. It's the Niners are not the team that you want to that I want for the Cardinals to have to bounce back against, because they're getting healthy with Debo looks like he's going to be a full go this week. Jennings has improved. Ayuk still hasn't had his blow up. So it's. I think I'm just going to end up laying off it, but it's tempting because these teams, when you give up 40 plus, you usually cover around 60% the next week. It's just kind of human nature.
And as a road dog, it's usually a good
Tyler as a road dog is
17-5
against the spread. So there are trends, but it's the Niners and against this terrible defense, and all bets are off.
I would lean that way. Getting McBride back will help. I assume he's going to be back. But that was a puzzling effort offensively last week. I wasn't surprised that Washington tore up their D, but the offense, it's the worst defense in the league. Well, maybe Arizona's the worst defense in the league, but that was head scratching for sure. So, but I would expect them to bounce back. I do like their staff, so I think the Cardinals are probably the right side, but it's tough.
Are we giving them too much credit? Like, I mean, we like their staff, but they are. Something's off with this team, and
the roster's so bad though. The offensive line is banged up and not good. The defense has no talent, and it's bad. And Murray, that was an awful game. Why wasn't he running either?
I don't know. Like
it was a puzzling performance.
Yeah, I thought he looked like better than his stats against Detroit, and then he just comes out this one against what we thought was the worst defense, and it just lays an egg. It's ridiculous. I don't know.
He looked good against the Bills. I mean, maybe that's another indictment on the Bills D.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills might have just got. I mean, the Bills played the Skyler Dolphins for most of that game. They played the Jaguars, who just couldn't catch a break, and then
Ingram was out, which is so big because you need tight ends against the Bills. Sorry, more Bills slander. Our producer 2 weeks in a row.
No, the Bills are great. It's not often you even get to slander the Bills, but that looks like it's going to wrap it up for the Week 5 Action Network podcast. You can hear more of me every week with my guy Sean Kerner talking fantasy, DFS, player projections, all that good stuff. on the Fantasy Flex podcast. Stuck, of course, talking college football over on Big Bets on Campus. And he is on Twitter at Stucky2. I'm at Chris Raybon, or X. And you can find us at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Bo Nix, let's get this money.
Let go.